Is the PlayStation 5 Pro really going to be a thing? Is the Asus ROG Ally 2 going to be releasing soon? Is Nintendo going to drop their next Nintendo Switch successor? Well, we're going to talk about all that and more, plus why I've been gone from this podcast for almost 2 months. We're going to talk about all that and more in the latest episode of Decked Up, a gaming and tech podcast. Oh, and new merch is available. So if you want to pick that up, it's in the description down below. Let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, what's up, everybody? It's Mikhail Casanova, host of Decked Up, a gaming and tech podcast. It has been roughly 2 months since I've last done an episode of this show, and I know a lot of you have been asking me. I've gotten DMs and various comments like, hey, when is Decked Up coming back? Is it done? Have you just quit it? Has it run its course? And I just want to let you guys know, no, it has not run its course. It's not over yet. It is still here. I've just had so many different projects that I've been working on lately, plus the fact that as you can see, I've been getting my sleeve done. So you can see, I guess some of it that isn't trying to blur out. So I've been getting my sleeve and also getting my chest piece done. For those who don't know, I am Hawaiian Samoan Tongan, and yeah, to get this all done, traditional taps out, and it's a very involved process. So I've been taking time off so I can do that. Still been uploading a ton of content. As you guys know, I've been constantly releasing shorts and reviews here and there, but mainly been focusing very heavily on shorts. And just because that's the thing that YouTube is honestly pushing right now, and you generally get better traction with shorts than you do with traditional form media. But anyways, that's one of the things. Plus, I was sick for a bit too. If you guys don't know, I think I did a short video on this, but I talked about when I had what's called hands, feet, mouth disease. And basically it's something that my daughter got, and then she brought it home and, gave it to her mom, and then gave it to me. And I literally got it right after I got my the rest of my sleeve completed. Like, my entire sleeve is done, but I haven't gotten my chest piece yet. But yeah, I got that, and basically in children it passes within, they'll get it. Takes about a week. You got to quarantine for a week, but children will typically be miserable for 2 or 3 days, and then by day 4 they're fine. Whereas adults, it can last up to 2 weeks. I was on the shelf for about 15 days, and basically you get blisters, very, very painful blisters all over. They start off where they just itch really bad, and then they start to be painful. So I got it all over my hands. You can see my hands are completely fucked right now because they're still healing. Skin's just peeling off. Actually got it on my tattoo, all up and down my arms, on both sides. Got it all over my back. Had majority of my face, in my ear canal, in my ear. Yeah, it was a very rough, process, because for a couple of days I couldn't even walk. My wife and I, we couldn't walk at all. We couldn't grab anything, especially when you get it all over your hands. You can't, just doing something like this, like holding a cup, is incredibly painful. And, 15 days went by, and then once that was done, I was able to really kind of slowly get back into the grind of things. But it was a process that was very painful. I think the next stage is I might lose my fingernails and toenails. I hope not, but that's something that happens. Apparently less than 10% of adults can get hands, feet, mouth disease. And because I'm immunocompromised, because I've had cancer before, and, also having an open wound with the tattoo. Yeah. So I had to go through that. So that was not a fun process at all. It still sucks with having my skin just, randomly just bubble up and peel off, right? So that sucks, but thankfully I'm through it. There's nothing you can really take for it, no medicine or anything like that. You pretty much got to just go through it. So For you, those of you wondering, like, oh, I haven't done this podcast, and where there's been like a lack of like new or original content, that's why. So with that out of the way, um, I just want to talk about there's a lot of things, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 leaks, or whatever the successor to Nintendo Switch is. So yes, uh nothing has been officially confirmed by Nintendo, but you also have to look at the fact that Nintendo's been relatively quiet this year. Like, this is not going to be a year of like major games. I mean, we got what's everything we've gotten so far: Endless Ocean, Luminous. We've gotten Princess Peach Showtime. We've gotten Mario versus Donkey Kong. And the next major titles coming up is going to be the Mario RP. Well, what is it? Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, and also the Luigi's Mansion 2 remake. Kind of interesting that they're not remaking Luigi's Mansion 1 as well, which would make sense. That way you have all of them on one platform. But all that being said, those are not really heavy hitters, right? We don't have a new Xenoblade coming up this year. No new Zelda. Like, literally last year and the years before were like the heavy hitters for games from Nintendo first party. So at this point, this just makes me think, you know, all these leaks that have been coming out and all this stuff and all the rumors. I don't like to report on rumors because, you don't know how valid that is. But looking at the trends, looking at what Nintendo is doing, a very big emphasis on indies and very low first party output, that just tells me that, yeah, the new system is coming. Whether that's going to be dropping this year or next, we don't know. I honestly think it might be dropping in 2025, and I'm going to probably say it's going to drop in March of next year. I don't think it's going to drop this year. If it does drop this year, I'm completely open to being wrong. I think if it does drop, they'll drop it in November. But, the Switch is 7 years old at this point. It's struggling to run a lot of games. I mean, uh, if it's not optimized, like if a game isn't made by Nintendo and optimized, or actually done by third parties that actually are making the effort to make these games run right, the games just aren't running well. The hardware is out of date. And this is the thing. Like, a lot of people want Nintendo to be more power focused. Nintendo hasn't been power focused since the Nintendo 64, which was absolute failure. So you can't expect them to really go 100% in with power, right? Even though the GameCube was more powerful than the PlayStation 2, which is the GameCube with the successor to the Nintendo 64, that also was something that, in my opinion, wasn't really focused on power. They just had more, and it was handicapped by the mini disc, right? So I'm looking at what Nintendo's doing, right? So 2025 is when I see them dropping the Switch successor. I think it's going to have 1080p in handheld mode. Also, it's probably going to have like an OLED screen and HDR potentially. Um, I think they're going to be trying to shoot for 60 frames per second as a standard for it. And basically, I think they're going to take, from my opinion, I think they would take from what they've seen the Steam Deck do, because they could easily make a platform on the same level as the Steam Deck. It doesn't even have to be 1080p; it can be 720p, honestly. But having the capability and power that the Steam Deck has, and being at a price point, probably $299, or more likely it's going to be $399. Have 512 gigs of storage. I would personally prefer 1 terabyte. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know how expensive it would be for them to do that. To also, make a profit, because you look at the Steam Deck, cheapest one right now is what, 256. For the OLED models, I'm not counting the old models, but for the OLED, and you go 256, 512, and 1 TB, I think they should offer at least two models, 512 and 1 TB model. Um, but at the price rate, $399 should be the starting point, right? It should have, I would say, slightly bigger battery than the current Switch OLED, so you can have that good, good battery life on the go, because that's kind of the standard right now. And I would also like it to have um, backwards compatibility. Like the Switch is such a successful platform that I think it would be foolish for Nintendo to be like, oh, we're gonna go to something completely different. Like, no. Maintain the Switch. They've already started raising certain prices, like you know, was it Tears of the Kingdom with $69.99 versus the standard set price for Switch games being $59.99. So if they're gonna do that $10 price hike, all right, you know, make it all fit on those carts, right? So that's just where I'm at now. I think it should generally just be the Switch 2. I think they need to name it that, or Switch Pro, or honestly Switch 2 would make sense, right? All the same functionality, just more power behind it. Um, Give it enough power to where third parties can do what they do. Like if they're already, Steam Deck is already a priority for companies when they put games on Steam. So if you can make these games be able to run on the Steam Deck and then also be able to run on whatever the Switch successor is, I think that's going to be honestly a game changer for Nintendo, because not only are you going to get the first party titles, but you're also going to get third party titles that'll be, maybe not 100% on the same level as PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X or just PC in general, but it can play comparable to the Steam Deck. And I think that would go a long way for them, you know. That way we don't have so many butchered ports to the Switch, and also the cloud games too. I know there's a lot of games for cloud that you can get, like Resident Evil 2, is it 2 remake, 3 remake, and it's not Village, right? It's 7 Biohazard or cloud versions on the Switch currently. And you've also got other games too. I think Control is cloud as well, and then some of the Assassin's Creeds, or maybe not Assassin's Creed. I know there's a lot of cloud games, but I think that would get around that if it can have enough power to just run natively on the hardware. Now, will Nintendo do this? Nintendo knows what they're going to do. And as much as people bemoan the lack of power and a lot of the decisions that Nintendo makes, I personally just say Nintendo's going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to be successful at what they do because they generally are, right? So there's that. And then other thing too, not so much as a hardware, but more of an infrastructure type of thing I'd like them to do differently and better. I would personally like for Nintendo to improve the Nintendo Switch Online, right? Like the way it is now, you have to, if you want to play the classics, right? So NES games up to N64 games, Genesis, Game Boy Advance, and such. You've got to be part of their subscription service. No, I don't have any issue with that whatsoever. But for me personally, I think it should be where you can play it offline, because right now, if you're not connected to the internet, you can't play these games, right? So it basically makes you feel like these are streamed games, right? It's cloud streaming. But if you can play them natively offline, that would be great. The other thing that I would personally want them to do is with the cloud functionality. So right now, Nintendo's very behind when it comes to online functionality. Let's just be completely honest about that. And what they're doing now is, for you to do cloud backups, you have to have Nintendo Switch Online. Otherwise, you can't access your saved data. You can't download it. You can't upload it. It's just kind of locked to the platform you're on, which is annoying if you've got multiple Switches. Like I've got a Switch OLED and I've got a Switch Lite. Even though the Switch Lite, it doesn't get as much play as it used to, it's still something I can just pull out, play when I want to. And it's generally what I take with me when I travel. So it's annoying that I have to pay for the Nintendo Switch Online service just to be able to have the cloud functionality function correctly. So I would hope that they would fix that and fix the need to always be connected to the internet for the Nintendo Switch Online games. That is two things that they definitely need to fix on an infrastructure level. I also think that they need to fix the way online works and just, look at what Steam has done, look at what uh PlayStation has done, look at what Xbox has been doing for over 20 years, and be able to make lobbies, have native voice chat, like not need to have everything run through the app that they have. So, um, I don't know. Like, sorry, I had a message right there. But yeah, I'm at this point where I'm like, it needs to happen. You know what I mean? Like, Nintendo just needs to, and this is, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. But I just think they need to improve their online infrastructure. It doesn't need to be as chaotic as it's been, right? Archaic and and like years out of date that it's been. They need to fix that. Hopefully they will. So other than that though, yeah, 2025, we're definitely going to see a Switch successor. That doesn't mean the Switch is going to stop. They're probably going to, still going to get games releasing for that for at least another 2 to 3 years. But I think a lot of focus is going to start shifting to this, whatever the new Switch is, which is why you've also had a lot of third party companies be kind of silent on titles being ported, right? So once they do that, I think it's going to be, probably R&D kits are in the hands of these companies. It's, I don't know. Hopefully this will make, one of my most look forward to games I'm actually doing a review on right now is the Uden Chronicle 100 Heroes. That and Rising just run like dog shit on the Switch. Like, that is the worst version. Now, I'm not saying don't buy it on the Switch. Like, buy a physical copy if you can, because as we know, like, we're in this time now where physical copies of games is just crazy hard to come by. But I would personally buy it physically, but definitely be on the ass of 505 Games and Rabbit Head Studios to fix the performance on it. Just too many games coming to the Switch just run like shit. And when that's the platform that sells more copies for multi-plat titles, especially RPGs, that's ridiculous in my opinion. But anyways, moving on from that, let's go ahead and talk about ROG Ally 2. Now, I've done, I believe, one or two podcasts on that topic. Like, ROG Ally 2 is definitely something that's going to happen. I mean, the Ally is over a year old at this point, and honestly, I do see next year being when we get the Ally 2. And honestly, I really feel like it's just going to be the MSI Claw with, better functionality. Because, I mean, we look at the MSI Claw, that was essentially just a black version of the ROG Ally with Hall effect sticks. So honestly, I think ROG Ally 2 going to be very much the same thing, probably a slightly bigger battery, better optimization as they've had time to work out armory crate on the Ally, better placement heatsink for the micro SD card, in my opinion, and Hall effect sticks, because it already has the linear Hall effect triggers, but I think they're going to include Hall effect sticks, and they really want to set themselves apart, then they need to have trigger locks, because that would be something that no other company is doing currently with, mobile handheld gaming PCs. This is a booming market right now. And it's at a point now where, it's not as big as it was in a sense of like, Steam Deck was doing it, nobody else. I mean, there were other companies, INEO and 1X, and of them were doing this for way longer than Valve went with the Steam Deck. But Steam Deck made it mainstream. It made it cool. Like I said, a lot of content creators built their own brand off of it and are flourishing, or if they haven't learned how to pivot, then they're floundering right now. But it was cool. It was very game changing. It was something we haven't had for a long time in the gaming space that just changed the way we viewed gaming, especially handheld gaming. And then you also look at So I get all these messages. Then you also look at the fact that when Ally came out, that was another mainstream device. People felt how they felt about it, but it upped the bar. Then we got the Legion Go, which I still love the Legion Go. I know it's got a lot of issues, but it is something that I do think is really cool that, also further changed the game as well. So there's that. So everything that's come out since then, like MSI Claw and, whatever Alienware is about to drop, Acer slash Predator, Alienware, all these other companies. Right now, there's really nothing that's going to be, in my opinion, um, exciting. It's just going to be iterative. How do we make a better version of what we currently have, right? So that's generally where I see the market right now. But as far as ROG Ally 2, bigger battery, Hall effect sticks, they're going to retain the linear Hall effect triggers, and the variable refresh rate is still going to be there. I don't think they're going to go higher than that 1080p screen. Uh, they could follow suit of what Lenovo did with the Legion Go, but I honestly wouldn't recommend it. I think that's not a good look. I mean, 1440p screen, it's great, but you can't really run games at that resolution. So why? Other than like using it as a tablet, which a lot of people use it as a tablet. I do too. It's a media consumption device, but I would never recommend, ASUS doing that. Leave it 1080p, variable refresh rate, um, Hall effect sticks, Hall effect linear triggers, and make sure the micro SD card works. Honestly, I think if they do pull something from the Legion Go, two USB-C ports, right? One on the top, one on the bottom would be great. And other than that, just don't release another shitty controller like that. The one that they did, that one was absolute garbage. That aside, though, yeah, 2025 is when I see that coming out. The last thing I want to talk about, maybe not the last thing, but it's the next thing. PlayStation 5 Pro, right? I did a podcast on that, did some videos on that. A lot of people have been up in their arms about it, saying, why do this? People are only not getting PlayStation 5s. This console generation hasn't been great compared to other console generations. We need to put that in perspective, right? When people say, not a reason to own these consoles, not a great console generation. The pandemic played a great factor as to why we've had so much support for previous generations. A lot of people don't understand that, but that is the reason. If you're wondering, like, oh, why buy this game on the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X when I can get it on the Xbox One, or I can get it on the PlayStation 4? And it's because, one, install base on the newer generation consoles wasn't there. Two, you also had to factor in the fact the pandemic hit, which, did a number on this whole, on everything stuff. And it wouldn't be profitable to just put games on one platform. That's also why you're seeing PlayStation shift so heavily to putting games on PC, because, they got to make up that lost revenue. But I feel like if pandemic hadn't happened, I don't think we'd be in the state that we're in now, because we've seen that has negatively impacted game development as a whole. And it just is what it is. I think this generation is going to actually stick around a lot longer, and especially as we've seen with the Xbox leaks, with that sticking around to the 2029, 2030. That's how long I see this console generation last, about a decade. And PlayStation 5 Pro, that's not surprising. A lot of people don't seem to understand that PlayStation has always had iterative consoles, revisions of consoles. PlayStation original, PSX, or the PSX had the PlayStation 1. I know PSX actually refers to PlayStation 2 with a hard drive, as well as the original PlayStation. But the PSX, that really had had launched in 1994, and then you had the slim model launch in 1999 to 2000, right? So years into a console generation's life, you will get that happening. right? PlayStation has always done that. PlayStation 2 had it, with the original. Then you got the Slim like 4 years later. PlayStation 3, you had various models of the OG fat one, one that was for two that were backwards compatible, one with hardware emulate, with the hardware in it, one with software emulation, which wasn't great, which was, I think the 60 gig was the fully had all the hardware in it. The 80 gig was emulation, which had a lot of issues. Then you had the 20 gig, which, well, it didn't have any of it. You could only play PlayStation 1 games. So you had those three at launch. Then you got a Slim like 3 to 4 years into the console's life, and then like another year and a half to 2 years later, you got the Super Slim. So that had three revisions. PlayStation 4 came out in 2013. Then in 2016, you had the Slim model. 2017, you had the Pro. And, you know, again, 4 to 5 to 6 years into a console life, PlayStation always has an upgrade. Right now, you know, last year we had the new Slim models, right? Well, that was 3.5 years into it. Now at 4 years, I think we're going to have uh, a whole nother. We're going to have the PlayStation 5 Pro, right? So that's not new. And people saying that, oh, it's not worth it. Why would they do that? Well, the PlayStation 5 has already had like three revisions, not including the Slim. You had the initial launch ones, which were riddled with problems. And then following that, you had the revised ones, which were quietly put out that fixed a lot of the cooling and all the other issues on the PlayStation 5. Then you had another revised model that came out with Final Fantasy 16 bundled edition, and the ones that followed after that. And then you have the Super Slim, and now you're gonna have the Pro. Now, I just think that the Pro is honestly just going to give you being able to run a graphics or fidelity mode with 60 frames per second as opposed to being locked to 30, but also is going to give you ray tracing, and all this other stuff too, HDR10 and all that. I think it's just going to be purely a spec bump. It's not going to be anything crazy, right? I wouldn't expect it to do anything really astronomically different, but it's going to give developers the ability to bring a level of parity between PC and PlayStation games, or performance. The parity is going to be getting greater, and this is how I look at that. So I'm not mad at PlayStation for deciding to drop it. I mean, nothing has been confirmed, and I'm a PlayStation partner, and I can tell you I've heard nothing, right? uh Yeah, it is what it is. Like, it's when it comes out, it'll come out. So just, I would say, if you want to get it, then get it. If you don't, then don't get it. Right? Um, Getting mad about this stuff or having that much of an emotional response to these things is just, to me, absolutely ridiculous. Um, let's also talk about one other thing too, and it's the well, rather, it's two things, right? And it's really the controversy that's been surrounding PlayStation. So we look at the Stellar Blade controversy, and then we look at the HellDivers 2 controversy. And what I really want to touch on with those, and I guess we can start with the Stellar Blade. I just did a review for it, so go check that out. But the Stellar Blade controversy to me has actually been very ridiculous. We've had two different well, technically three different controversies with it. One was people saying that the character of Eve and the female characters in the game were supremely over sexualized, and just, you know apparently a lot of gamers, particularly this modern generation of male gamers, feel very uncomfortable with it, which to me, it's fucking weird. Like, have you not seen a woman before? Are tits and ass and all this, and curvaceous in shape women something that's really weird? Especially us being in this era of female empowerment. Like, why are we body shaming beauty, right? And a lot of people say, "Oh, that's European beauty standards," but this game really focuses on South Korean beauty and you know style, and it's just weird, right? So I said in my review of Stellar Blade that there's a lot of hypocrisy when it comes to game journalism and you gaming YouTubers and just gamers in general in this modern era. Um, everyone they're always offended by everything that comes out, and when you're offended by everything, I don't know how you can enjoy anything. It's weird that with Stellar Blade, the character's over sexualized and it's always showing ass shots and all this other stuff. But Near Automata did the same thing, and these same shitheads, I'm just gonna call them that, right? If you're one, hey, acknowledge, right? These same shitheads had the same, they absolutely praised and put Near Automata on that. They love Near, right? Um, Replicant for the same thing, right? But it's like now we're in this age where it's like if we see an attractive female in a game, we have to feel uncomfortable about it. We have to find an issue with it. A lot of people saying, all the clickbait with the reviews and everything for the game was just like, oh, this game is all just about sex appeal and just showing ass, right? All these uncomfortable, you know, angles and stuff like that, which to me is just absolutely fucking ridiculous. Because you had all the same things in there, if not more sexualization. And these are fictional characters, like, and these are fictional badass female characters. So it's just weird that you know from 2017 to now how the culture has just shifted. And I really think, and this is just gonna be me putting it out there, and if this offends you, I don't fucking care. I think a lot of these men out here need to get fucking laid. Like like I think if you're bothered by seeing a digital virtual character's ass cheeks or titties, you've never seen that shit in real life. If you have, you would appreciate, respectfully, of course, a good pair of ass, a good ass, and a good pair of tits, right? Be they small, medium, large, it doesn't matter. It's just so weird, man. It's weird how people are now. Just offended at everything culture. I don't fucking get it. Like, go out and touch some grass. I think this is also the case of people just chronically being online. Like, how can you be offended at this stuff, but you got all these thirst traps over on Instagram and on Threads, right? And on Twitch, these girls that are more curvaceous, right? More like sexy in a way than a digital character, but we don't have issues with that. I don't know. I don't know. I think these are the same guys that honestly can't even, probably have never been laid and can't get a woman in their life. That's just how I view it. And I know that's a very blunt opinion, but like it just seems like it, right? This is a weird time we're in. I can't even imagine being a single person trying to date now with how society is. Like I've been to nightclubs. My sister's partner DJs at a nightclub, and back in my day, like, yo, we had fine girls on the dance floor, we had the fugly ones, we had the fives and sixes. It didn't matter, we were all on the dance floor, we were all getting drinks, we were all talking, just mingling, right? You had your fuck boys, you had your swagger guys, and you had the guys who just had the complete package, and then you had guys with no game, and then you had the military and all the other fucks. So we all just mingle. But now, like when I recently went, I saw girls on one side, guys on another, and then there's a dance floor, there's the bar, and then people are just so awkward because people would rather pick up their phone and just like, oh, look, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and they do so much of that, and it's like they don't even know how to live in the moment, right? They just they live vicariously through their phones. So it's a weird generational thing. But yeah, all these guys that are bothered, and I've rarely heard women say they're bothered by it. Maybe Anita Sarkeesian or something like that, one of these purple haired feminists that are interesting. Maybe they have something to say about it, but I'm mostly just seeing guys who look like they've never seen a pussy in their life talk about it, right? And these are the ones that think that acting this way is what's going to get them a woman or a partner, and it's just like, no, you're just doing it wrong. So yeah, the hypocrisy of it, people also dislike it because it's a Souls-like game. Like, this is the evolution of where action character focus are, because this game is not only an action game, it's also somewhat of an open world action adventure RPG, because there are RPG elements in the game, and you don't really see a lot of it. That, like, you just see a lot of people focusing on Eve, the main character's ass, and they don't really talk about all the different mechanics in the game, the skill trees, the actual fact that you need to consciously pay attention when you're playing the game. It rewards you for learning the combat system. They don't talk about that. They just focus on, oh, the character's over sexualized. It's fucking ridiculous. But yes, it is kind of a Souls-like type of game that is a very popular genre right now. And I don't see anything wrong with it. Yeah, the game isn't perfect. It has some issues here and there, but I think it's one of the best games I've played all year. And I'm also someone who is not drinking the Kool-Aid of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Great game. It's just not my it's not my game. I still prefer Final Fantasy 16 to 7 Remake and Rebirth. That's just me. But all that being aside, let's talk about the HellDivers drama, because there's a lot of that too, with PlayStation wanting to force people to connect their PlayStation Network accounts, which I think also is a reason for them to be able to let you have cross cross platform play, and also being able to cross platform progression. However, they PlayStation doing that also put the developers in a very bad situation, and there's a lot of outrage about that. And then PlayStation, and this is a typical PlayStation. As a PlayStation partner, I'm just gonna be honest about that. PlayStation typically, when they are put in a position where they've upset their core base, they typically backpedal. I mean, look at Jim Ryan and who wants to play old games, and we don't need backwards compatibility. You need to shut down the PlayStation 3 and the Vita store and all this other stuff. And look how quickly they backtracked on that, right? Nothing new. Companies, will do that. PlayStation especially will do that. Um, I love HellDivers. I've not played it in months now, but it's a game that I very much did enjoy, and I'm just not going to be a person who's going to, be all up in their feelings about this. It is what it is. Like, um, your voice was heard. They backtrack. But I'm not going to spend all day making videos and posts to farm engagement, because that's what a lot of these people do. You'll notice this, that people who follow trends and they get outraged, especially YouTubers, they get outraged at everything, or they do all this stuff. It's because they're generally you know, uninteresting as an individual, and they just want to get clicks and likes and views and grow and just make money off of it. They don't really care typically about the stuff that they outrage and how dare they and all this other stuff, right? It's just engagement farming. It's easy to do that, right? If I were to fully do all that, I would probably grow more, but I'm not complaining. I'm about to hit 40,000 subscribers here. All right. And that's another thing too. A lot of people think that your sub count and your view count merit your value, but that's not the case. I mean, there are people who have 100,000 or more subscribers and average like 1,000 views a video or more, right? My friend Adam Korlick does, right? But it is what it is, right? It just, that doesn't stop you from working with companies. It doesn't stop you from getting paid opportunities. And you'll often see people who are far larger. They, especially the ones that aren't working with companies, are going to question, how is that? How do you do that? Like, I actually got one of those just now. But it just is what it is. When you're working with brands and businesses and whatnot, they don't really care. At the end of the day, it's free marketing, right? Do they pay somebody, pay a marketing company, or do they give a creator a free product or you know, a couple $100 here or a couple thousand. That's still cheaper than going to a marketing company. And I'm someone with a marketing background. I can tell you, going to a marketing firm, that's not going to be cheap, right? Especially for the length of campaigns. So that's all it is. That's all you have to really look at it as. But all that being said, though, those are my thoughts on everything. You know, the HellDivers 2 controversy, and also other thing too. I guess with the HellDivers 2 thing, by forcing the PlayStation Network stuff, that also allows PlayStation to regulate people and with their product. But hey, it didn't go through. Our voices, your voices. I'm gonna say our voices because I really didn't give two shits about this. Uh, Voices were heard. I guess another thing I'll touch on too, real quick, is physical media and how it's just becoming a dying thing, right? A lot of people like to get vocal and talk about how they are terrified of this all digital future, especially with, you know, games and media just constantly being delisted. They don't really own the content. They can pull rights. Well, we've been in this digital era for the last 15 or so years. Anytime you fire up a game from 360 PlayStation 3 era to now, you have to go through all these, you know, EULA, EULA, and all these other agreements before you can even touch the game, right? And honestly, you can say that kind of started in the PlayStation 2 original Xbox era. But it's a thing, right? You have to agree to this stuff to play the game. Otherwise, you can't play it. And physical media, I feel like will always be there, but it's going to start becoming niche. And we have to, if we want to keep physical media around, we have to continue being vocal about, hey, we still want this stuff, right? I'm not a fan of it only being like limited run games or strictly limited or any of these other places being the only places that can make physical games, because you're giving too much power to them, right? Especially when they originally started off to be one thing and now they're currently something else. But I understand from a business perspective, because I also like, look, I understand the consumer viewpoint, but I also understand the company brand and business at that point, uh, their point, which is lowers the overhead costs, right? If we don't have to physically make these games on physical media, we don't have to make carts, because I mean, you buy a game now, you just get the case and the disc. There's nothing in it. We don't get manuals anymore, right? So it's essentially cost cutting for them. You just have to look at it like that. And I mean, if you want to be mad about it, sure, but at the same time, it's like it is what it is. But be vocal, because I don't want. I mean, we're already at a point now. Like when you buy a game, Star Ocean 2, Second Story Arc, I struggle trying to find it physically, right? That Tactics Ogre, Rebirth, or all these other games, they come out, they're already, you know, if you don't pre-order it, and people say, oh, don't pre-order games. Well, how the hell else are you going to get these physical games unless you're driving around? I'm out here in Hawaii, right? In Honolulu. And there's not a lot of places to get video games out here outside of GameStop, uh, Book Off, and there's another one. Then you got, you know, occasionally a Walmart and Target, which are also not really carrying as many physical games. Um, Best Buy, we already know that they're going to not really be carrying a lot. So you just have to really, you have to pre-order in a way. Or if you can find it on a sale, find it. And a lot, especially for the Switch, like a lot of that stuff is going to be rare, right? You're not going to be able to easily find these games, even for the PlayStation. Even though on PlayStation is basically a DRM disc, but you know, if you can get it, you can get it. If it's a company you want to support it. I think it's really weird in this time where people are like, oh, I want to support this, I want to play this game, but I'm gonna wait for a sale. And then they play the game, enjoy it, and then they're like, oh man, how come they're not making a sequel? Because you didn't fucking buy the game. That's why. And also there's corporate overhead too. But at the same time, it's like, the onus is all not only on the developer and their overhead, but also on the consumer too. When you don't buy these games, you don't play them. Pre-orders are a way to see engagement, right? And if you don't pre-order them, you don't buy them physically, you don't buy or support it, you wait for a sale. That's why these games drop off. That's why you don't get sequels to a lot of these games, right? And that's with any media. So I don't know, do better as consumers, and also the industry, do better yourselves too, right? The onus is on all of us. But all that being said, only other thing I have is if y'all want to get the new shirt, my new tribal design, which also has a design on the back, it's available on my Teespring store, and also I will post it and pair it to the video here on YouTube so you can buy it directly through YouTube. And yeah, that's all I got to say about all this. It's feeling good to be back. I'm going to be dropping episodes of Decked Up again every Monday. So the release schedule is going to be every Monday. You will get probably a review video in the morning, and then in the afternoon, you'll get an episode of Decked Up. And then on Friday, you'll get the Castle podcast, which will be every 2 to 3 weeks. And but Decked Up will be every week. And then we're going to be starting a wrestling podcast very soon, trying to get all the logistics with that out the way. And I'm also going to be bringing up bringing back the Best Damn Podcast Show period, where I get to just freeform talk about stuff with no filter and no fear of being canceled. All that being said, thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Feels good to be back. And all that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Stay safe, be blessed, have aloha. Don't be a shithead out there. And if you do, don't be surprised if people don't fuck with you. All that being said, catch you guys on the next one. Peace out and a hooey ho.